When a woman loses interest, she rarely announces it with words. She simply changes her energy. Her attention shortens, her responses grow colder, and suddenly that spark that once sought you out is gone. Many men, confused by this emotional silence, try to win her back by giving more, writing more, insisting more, without realizing that this only pushes her further away. What was once attraction turns into pity or irritation, and what was once curiosity becomes routine. The paradox is that the more you try to hold on to her, the faster she slips away. And at that point, the most common mistake is confusing love with begging. We've all experienced that moment when you feel she no longer connects the same way, when the bond fades and desire weakens. You wonder what you did wrong, replay every conversation and gesture looking for an explanation, when in truth it isn't about words or messages. It's about something deeper. Your energy stopped communicating value. Maybe you lost your center, became predictable, started revolving around her, and forgot that attraction comes from respect, not effort. But there's something many men don't realize. Interest can be regained as long as it doesn't come from need, but from presence. It's not about convincing her, it's about becoming again the man she admired in the beginning. If this is your first time here, my name is Celia. I help men understand female psychology through clarity, respect, and emotional maturity. In this space, you won't learn manipulation, but how to reconnect with your true personal power and become a man who attracts for who he is, not for what he promises. I invite you to subscribe and stay until the end, because what we'll see today will not only help you regain a woman's interest without begging, it will help you never lose it again. Let's begin. A woman's loss of interest doesn't happen suddenly. It builds gradually in the small details a man stops caring for. It begins when she feels she no longer needs to make an effort to win you over because you've given yourself completely without her asking. At that point, the dynamic changes. She feels she controls the rhythm, and without realizing it, you go from being a challenge to being a certainty. And when something becomes certain, attraction fades. This isn't about what you feel, but about the energy you project. A man who gives without balance, who offers without limit, creates an emotional abundance that paradoxically devalues his presence. She starts to see you as guaranteed, not valuable. Attraction doesn't survive on affection or attention alone. It lives in tension, the balance between desire and mystery, closeness and space. When a man becomes too available, he becomes background. His presence stops being stimulating and turns into part of the scenery. So she doesn't reject him, she simply stops seeking him out. She stops texting first, stops making plans, stops being curious. Her mind no longer associates him with excitement or challenge, but with routine. And a woman can't feel desire where there's no uncertainty or admiration. Another common reason for her disinterest is when a man tries to replace lost behavior with words, promises, explanations, sweet phrases meant to recover what coherence no longer sustains. After an argument or some distance, he might try to convince her that things can still work, but he doesn't realize words can't reignite what energy has already extinguished. She doesn't want to hear you'll change. She wants to feel that you have. She wants to see again the man she admired, not the one trying to explain why he became insecure. It's important to understand that a woman doesn't lose interest because she found someone else, but because she stopped feeling growth with you. When the relationship stagnates, her instinct pulls her away emotionally. It's not cruelty, it's nature. She craves movement, inspiration, emotion. If what she lives with you becomes flat or predictable, her mind starts looking for new stimuli that bring her back to life. That's why regaining her interest isn't about fighting for her attention, it's about becoming movement again. The man who notices these changes in time doesn't react with anxiety. He observes, pauses, and reflects. Instead of chasing her, he asks himself, when did I stop being the man she admired? When did I shift from creating attraction to seeking approval? That awareness is the first step to stopping the loss. It's not about doing something to make her like you again, but about reconnecting with your essence, the calm, purpose, and magnetism you had when you didn't need to prove anything. When attraction starts fading, the strongest temptation is to recover it through insistence, but the answer lies in doing the opposite, stopping. Pausing is power. Silence, when it comes from a calm man, has more impact than 1,000 impulsive messages. If you can wait and hold your frame without blame or desperation, she'll start sensing that energy that once intrigued her. That's the difference between begging and attracting. One seeks from emptiness, the other invites from fullness. The loss of interest isn't an ending, it's a mirror. It shows clearly where you gave away your center, where you forgot yourself trying to hold on to something that only exists if both want it. Understanding this point is crucial because this is where the real work begins. Regaining her interest doesn't come from chasing her attention. It comes from regaining your personal power. And to do that, we first need to understand what's behind her detachment. When a woman pulls away emotionally, most men think it's because she stopped loving them. But in most cases, what dies isn't love, it's admiration. Detachment doesn't come from boredom, but from losing reference. When she no longer sees you as a man who leads his life with purpose, attraction fades. Not because she wants to punish you, but because her nature seeks the strongest, most grounded, and most inspiring energy. In her emotional language, to admire is to desire. And when admiration fades, desire turns into tenderness, not passion. One of the deepest causes of detachment is excessive neediness. The man who clings, who asks too much, who constantly seeks reassurance, radiates emptiness. Without realizing it, he sends the message that his well-being depends on her, and that creates unbearable pressure. She starts feeling responsible for his emotions, and no attraction can survive that. What was once tenderness becomes burden. She begins to miss the man who was calm, who could enjoy without demanding guarantees, and now feels she must care for an emotional child instead of following a grounded man. Losing purpose also plays a major role. When a man stops having clear direction, when his world begins to revolve entirely around a woman, she feels it immediately. Women are extremely attuned to a man's focus. When that focus dissolves and everything centers on the relationship, polarity reverses. He becomes passive, she takes the lead. But that's not her natural role in attraction. She doesn't want to lead. She wants to feel led by a man who knows where he's going. That's why regaining attraction never starts with her. It starts with reclaiming your own direction. Another key factor is the loss of mystery. Predictability kills desire. When she can anticipate your every text, reaction, and response, excitement dies. Attraction thrives in the unknown, in curiosity. If every gesture confirms there's no surprise left, desire fades, not because she decides it, but because her biology craves uncertainty. Novelty awakens, repetition dulls. A man who maintains his world, interests, silences, and independence keeps that spark alive that draws her without knowing why. So far, we've seen that female detachment doesn't come from rejection, but from a loss of polarity between you. When you stop being the center of your own life, she feels the imbalance. What you interpret as coldness is often her subconscious way of testing whether you can stand on your own. In her mind, it's not revenge, it's a check. Is he still the man who once made me feel secure? Or has he become dependent on my validation? If it's the latter, desire disappears. When a woman detaches, she isn't waiting to be chased. She's observing whether you respect the space. Her mind associates calm with strength, urgency with weakness. So every desperate text or emotional justification only accelerates the process. But if she senses silence, consistency, and emotional distance, her instinct stirs again. Doubt appears, and doubt reignites curiosity. Wondering whether she lost you or you chose to move on is one of the strongest triggers of renewed attraction. The root of detachment lies in imbalance between energy and presence. A present man is magnetic because he doesn't need to assert himself. He knows who he is and doesn't move out of fear. Regaining that balance isn't about strategies, it's about inner transformation, choosing yourself before you choose her. Only when you reclaim your purpose, calm, and mystery do you become interesting again. And that leads to the next step, regaining control without begging. When she pulls away, a man's instinct is to explain, ask for another chance, or prove it can still work. But that impulse, however sincere, is born from fear, and fear never creates attraction. A woman might feel pity for a needy man, but she will never desire him that way again. That's why the first step to regaining control isn't to talk, it's to stop. Stop acting from anxiety, start acting from composure. The faster you try to fix the distance, the more you widen it. But when you choose conscious silence, you take back the power you didn't know you'd lost. Up to this point, we've learned that female detachment isn't punishment. It's a natural response to the loss of admiration. So to reverse it, you must rebuild respect. And that begins when she notices you no longer react like before. When instead of begging, you listen and then disappear for a while. When you stop trying to fix things with promises and instead project presence. That calm unsettles and attracts her. It reminds her she's facing a man with emotional control. A man who knows when to speak and when to withdraw, who doesn't need to raise his voice to be heard. That firm, quiet, self-possessed energy is far more powerful than any emotional speech. Regaining control also means reclaiming your boundaries. Stop trying to convince her and start asking yourself if she still deserves access to your time and energy. This mindset shift changes everything. When she feels you're no longer available at any price, her perception changes. Your absence begins to carry weight. She starts wondering when you lost interest, and that thought, more than any conversation, sparks curiosity. Psychologically, curiosity is the first sign of rekindled attraction, but for that to happen, you must stand firm in your decision not to chase. Many men fear that if they step back, she'll forget them, but the opposite happens. A woman's mind wakes up at unexpected silence. If she's used to seeing you insist, and suddenly you don't, she can't process it. That contradiction makes her question things. Did he give up? Is he seeing someone else? Does he no longer care? That confusion creates interest. Silence isn't indifference. It's emotional strategy when it comes from dignity, not pride. Pride tries to prove. Dignity simply preserves. Once you've stopped reacting and created silence, focus entirely on yourself, not to distract yourself, but to reconnect with who you were before she took up so much space in your mind. Get back to your routines, your passions, your purpose. Go out, talk, live, not to show her you're fine, but because you need to be. When she senses your life continues in fullness, her mind goes into conflict. She can't understand how a man who lost her is still at peace, and that contradiction reignites attraction. Regaining control without begging is about leading your story again, not manipulating or pretending indifference, but remembering that masculine appeal comes from self-mastery. A man who doesn't need to prove love through anxiety, but through stability, who doesn't seek affection, but inspires it. When you reach that point, distance no longer scares you, because you know your value doesn't depend on her attention. And paradoxically, that's when she comes back. Before moving on, I want to invite you to pause. If this content is helping you see things more clearly, subscribe to the channel, hit like, and comment your name and the country you're watching from. I love knowing where this community is from, and I read everything you share. Your support truly makes a difference and helps me keep creating this kind of material. You can also share your personal experience or offer advice from your story. Now let's continue to the first concrete step to regain a woman's interest without losing your self-respect in the process. The first step to regaining a woman's interest has nothing to do with her. It has to do with you, with the direction you lost while the relationship became your center. A man without purpose is like a ship without a rudder. It can move, but it doesn't get anywhere. And when a woman senses that lack of direction, her instinct disconnects. She might still care about you, but she no longer admires you. Because what attracts a woman most isn't looks or words. It's the sense that you're building something that doesn't depend on her. That energy of progress, of having a mission beyond yourself, is what keeps her attraction alive. When you focus on your purpose, you automatically recover something she's always looking for, your inner leadership. It's not about dominating her or forcing your ideas. It's about projecting clarity. Women feel desire for men who know where they're going because that gives emotional safety. A man with goals, discipline, and structure radiates stability. By contrast, the man who lives glued to her every move comes across as unstable and anxious. And no feminine desire thrives in a field of anxiety. That's why, before trying to win her back, you must rebuild your own north. Not to show her you can, but because you genuinely need to. So far, we understand that masculine appeal isn't based on words. It's the energy your actions emit. When you wake up early, train, work with intention, learn, and keep your routines, you're sending a silent message: my life is moving forward. That consistency is more seductive than any conversation. A woman can doubt what you say, but never what you do. If she senses you've regained your focus, her perception starts to shift without you asking. The man who seemed lost now looks steady, and that reignites admiration, the foundation of lasting attraction. Reconnecting with your purpose also means auditing your environment. Ask yourself whether the people you spend time with fuel you or drain you, whether your routines strengthen you or weaken you, whether you're investing your energy in building or in waiting. Every small choice declares who you are, and when you act like a man who chooses instead of reacts, you naturally take your power back. That emotional independence not only benefits you, it also rekindles in her the sense that you're in motion, that your life doesn't revolve around anyone, and that you're free to decide. A common mistake is believing your renewed purpose has to be visible to her, that she needs to see it to value you again. But there's no need to show anything. Energy doesn't need proof. When you truly change your focus, the world can tell without a word. Your gaze changes, your posture changes, the way you speak and move changes too. It's not about faking confidence, it's about genuinely recovering it. Attraction isn't performed, it's transmitted. She'll feel that shift even if you never explain it. A man with purpose stops measuring his worth by other people's reactions. He no longer seeks validation or needs approval. He lives in alignment with his principles and his personal mission, and that is irresistible. That inner strength separates the man who begs from the man who chooses. When you return to that state, the interest she lost begins to come back naturally because respect has been restored. And without respect, no attraction can hold. Purpose is what gives you direction when your heart is confused. It keeps you from getting lost in neediness or despair. When you refocus on growing, creating, and leading yourself, you no longer depend on anyone's interest to feel whole. And it's precisely that wholeness that makes you attractive again. With that said, the next step is understanding how to revive the mystery that keeps feminine curiosity alive. Curiosity is the oxygen of attraction. A woman becomes interested in a man when she can't fully predict him, when she senses there's still something to discover. But when every word, gesture, and response is predictable, her mind shuts down. Mystery doesn't mean playing games or manipulating. It means keeping your independence, not revealing everything you think, and not turning your life into an open book. It's maintaining just enough reserve for her to wonder what you're thinking, what you're doing, or why you're acting differently. That quiet internal question is what reignites desire. When she feels she knows exactly how you'll act, the excitement dies. What used to be attraction turns into routine. A man who's always available, always replies instantly, who always says yes, stops being a stimulus. Not because he's not good or caring, but because he's no longer unpredictable. Feminine attraction feeds on contrast, not constancy. It needs a touch of intrigue, the sense that you're present but not completely surrendered. That's what creates magnetism. So bringing back mystery isn't about disappearing. It's about reclaiming the emotional autonomy that made you attractive in the first place. We've already seen that purpose gives you direction, but mystery gives you power. It's not about hiding information or faking distance. It's about acting with calm and natural reserve. Speak less and do more. Reply when you want to, not when urgency drives you. Let her reach out sometimes. Let her notice your absence. Let her feel your attention is no longer guaranteed. That small uncertainty makes her see you differently. Suddenly, the man who was always available has a life of his own again, and without saying a word, the energy between you shifts. Reawakening mystery also means breaking patterns. If she expects you to behave a certain way, do something different. Not out of rebellion, but authenticity. If you used to text her every day, let some time pass and reappear calmly. If you used to respond to every provocation with anxiety, now respond with composure, or simply don't respond. Predictability is the enemy of desire, while pauses create space for interest. This isn't about manipulating her attention, it's about showing, through your attitude, that you're no longer in the same emotional place. What many men forget is that mystery isn't sustained by distance alone, but by evolution. Disappearing isn't enough, you have to change. When she sees you again or reads you, she should sense something different. The way you speak, look, or carry yourself shouldn't be the same. You're growing, there's fresh air about you. That activates the most powerful mechanism of attraction, comparing the man you were with the man you are now. And when that difference is clear, desire returns. Mystery also has to do with your environment. Let your life expand beyond her. New places, new people, new interests. Variety in your inner world shows up in your energy. When she senses you're no longer the man orbiting around her, but someone who explores, renews himself, and challenges himself, curiosity turns into desire. There's nothing more seductive than a man who keeps growing, even when no one is watching. Regaining mystery isn't about vanishing to make her feel guilty or punishing her with indifference. It's about being interesting on your own merits. It's about reclaiming the natural intrigue that a focused, selective, and active man generates. And it's precisely in that movement where the next step appears, learning to trigger real emotions in her without explanations or promises. Because what keeps attraction alive isn't words, it's the feelings you spark. Attraction isn't built with logic, it's awakened through emotion. Many men, when they feel a woman slipping away, try to win her back by talking, explaining, justifying what they feel, or what she should understand. But connection isn't recovered with arguments, it's revived through sensations. If she doesn't feel you, it doesn't matter how much you say. And if she feels you again, you won't need to say anything. The key is to stop trying to convince her with reasons and start creating emotional experiences, even small ones, that remind her why she once felt drawn to you. A woman connects through emotion, not logic. She can hear your words, but her body responds to what you transmit, your energy, your gaze, your tone, your calm. She doesn't want you to explain what you feel. She wants to feel it through you, without words. If you speak from anxiety, she only senses neediness. If you speak from calm, she feels security. That's the difference between a man who reacts and a man who transmits. The first seeks to be understood, the second creates a feeling, and attraction doesn't come from understanding, it comes from emotional impact. So far we've learned that purpose and mystery reignite your magnetism, but emotion solidifies it. You don't need grand gestures to move her, your conscious presence is enough. If you see her, hold her gaze calmly. If she speaks coldly, don't justify yourself. If she mentions other men, smile and change the subject. That blend of composure and inner control creates an automatic spark because it challenges her to figure out what changed in you. The sense that she no longer has emotional power over you rekindles her interest. In that moment, she's no longer analyzing your words. She's feeling again. Triggering emotions doesn't mean chasing reactions. It means moving from a different energy. Go new places, laugh more, enjoy your life, create moments that bring you vitality. The emotion you generate within yourself is felt by others. If you're drained, she'll sense it. If you're fulfilled, she'll sense that too. That's why the most effective way to influence what she feels is to live from abundance. When a man lives with purpose, mystery, and joy, attraction happens naturally. It isn't forced, it radiates. And what you radiate inevitably reaches others. You must also learn not to fill silence with words. Silence can be more seductive than any rehearsed phrase when it comes from confident energy. A woman feels more attracted to the man who makes her think, who makes her wonder what she's feeling, than to the one who tries to explain everything. Each time she doesn't get an immediate reaction from you, her mind activates. She starts imagining, analyzing, getting curious. And in that process, without realizing it, she reconnects with you emotionally. Remember, emotion can't be faked. You can't act confident if deep down you're needy, but you can build real confidence. Once you return to your center, your gestures, your voice, and your presence change. That transformation doesn't go unnoticed. She'll see the difference, not because you tell her, but because her body reacts differently. That's when you regain power, because you no longer depend on her validation to feel alive. You're the one creating the emotional charge through the way you move in the world. A man who evokes emotion without seeking approval becomes magnetic, not because of any specific move, but because he projects coherence. And when there's coherence between what you feel, what you do, and what you project, she starts trusting you again without knowing why. You didn't convince her, you moved her emotionally. And in feminine psychology, that's worth more than any promise. Now, learning how to maintain that state without losing yourself again in just one woman will be the final step in this process. When a man pours all his energy, attention, and sense of worth into a single woman, he starts to lose his power, not because she doesn't deserve it, but because desire can't thrive when it's born from the fear of losing. Getting trapped in one story locks you up emotionally, makes you predictable, and separates you from the mindset that creates real attraction. Abundance. Abundance doesn't mean having many women, it means remembering that you don't need anyone to feel complete. From that place, every connection you choose is built on freedom, not need. Obsession with one woman happens when you mistake connection for destiny. You think that if you lose her, there won't be another like her, that no one else will make you feel the same, that the universe closed off all other possibilities. But that's not love, it's attachment. Attachment is born of fear, and everything that comes from fear eventually kills attraction. A woman might feel affection for a man who idolizes her, but never desire. Desire only exists when she senses you're with her because you choose to be, not because you need her. That's why detachment doesn't destroy the bond, it strengthens it. So far, we've learned that purpose centers you, mystery makes you intriguing, and emotion makes you unforgettable. But none of that matters if you chain yourself to one person as if your life depended on her. Getting stuck makes you small. It keeps you from growing, discovering, and exploring new versions of yourself. Most importantly, it makes you lose the respect of the woman you're trying to hold on to. Because a man who can't let go, who begs or pleads, stops being a reference point. He loses his frame, and without frame, attraction can't exist. When you decide not to stay stuck on one woman, you free yourself from the illusion of control. You accept that attraction is something you build, but also something that can fade. That acceptance gives you peace. It turns you into a man who doesn't fear change, who doesn't cling, who keeps moving forward. And that calm is felt. The woman who once saw you as desperate to keep her now sees someone with emotional mastery, someone who can love without losing himself, enjoy without depending, and move on without falling apart. That maturity is magnetic because it projects stability. It doesn't mean you should shut yourself off from feeling. Feeling is fine, as long as you stay centered. If she comes back, it's not because you waited on your knees, but because attraction naturally rebalanced itself. If she doesn't, that's fine too, because your sense of self no longer depends on her response. When a man lives with that clarity, his energy shifts. He becomes more attractive not only to her, but to the world. He stops chasing, and the world starts chasing him. That's how attraction works when it comes from abundance, not scarcity. Detachment isn't coldness, it's maturity. It's being able to say, I love you, but also, I'm fine without you. It's understanding that loving doesn't mean losing yourself. It means sharing yourself from a place of wholeness. And when you reach that state, the game changes. You no longer fear loss because you know you can always begin again. That certainty, more than any technique, is the essence of masculine magnetism. The woman who once left may return, or she may not, but you'll still be the same centered, strong, peaceful man. And that's what truly matters. Accepting that you don't need to hold on to attract is the final step in this process. Because when a man lives without fear, without desperation, and with purpose, he doesn't just regain a woman's interest, he regains his dignity. And that is the true power of conscious attraction. Winning back a woman's interest without begging isn't a strategy, it's a transformation. It's not about doing something to make her come back, but about returning to your own center. When you understand how attraction works from calm rather than urgency, everything changes. She may come back, or she may not, but you're no longer the same. You've learned that value isn't proven, it's projected. That attention is earned, not demanded. And that the respect she feels for you begins with the respect you have for yourself. Attraction can't be requested, it's inspired. And only a man who has learned to be complete can inspire it again. If you apply what we've discussed, you'll stop living your relationships from fear of losing her and start living them from the freedom to choose. That's the difference between the man who begs and the man who attracts. The first tries to fill a void, the second shares his abundance. True conquest isn't making her return. It's staying whole, calm, and selective. When you achieve that, her interest, or any woman's interest, will come naturally. Because real magnetism isn't performed, it becomes part of who you are. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this journey. If this message helped you see yourself more clearly, I want to thank you deeply for being part of this community. This space exists to help you build healthy relationships, with boundaries, respect, and conscious attraction. We do this because we believe in men who love with dignity and live with purpose. Every video, every reflection, is meant to remind you that you deserve relationships that add to your life, not drain it. I invite you to subscribe, leave a like, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. Your support and your comments are what help this space grow. I always read them with care and gratitude. See you in the next video where we'll continue learning how to build relationships with balance, clarity, and mutual respect.